Hey there. Ready for a deep dive into the strange and unexpected?
Fermilab, the famous physics lab.
The one and only. But we're not digging through scientific journals for this one.
Oh, what are we looking at then?
Excerpts, actually, from what seems to be a sci-fi thriller manuscript.
Interesting.
Wild story, let me tell you.
I bet. What kind of stuff happens?
Think strange occurrences, unexplained events, maybe even, and I know this sounds crazy, a touch of the otherworldly.
Sounds intriguing, but a little out there for our usual deep dives.
It had me thinking, though. Could there be even a sliver of truth hidden in these pages, you know?
It's certainly an unusual source. But fiction can be a way to explore scientific ideas, even if they're on the more fantastical side.
For sure, and this manuscript doesn't hold back on the fantastical.
As always, though, gotta approach everything with a critical eye, no matter the source.
Absolutely. So this manuscript paints Fermilab in a whole new light. It's not just some sterile lab, you know?
Right. Fermilab is actually pretty unique.
It's this sprawling complex right out on the prairie.
Yeah, they even have a buffalo herd roaming around.
A buffalo herd.
It's true. The founding director, Robert Rathbun Wilson, he wanted to make it a different kind of place. More welcoming, stimulating.
Not your typical lab.
Not at all. He wanted a place where collaboration could flourish. A contrast to those images of, isolated labs. Shows how much environment can really impact research, don't you think?
It's like a science theme park, almost. But the theme gets a little more bizarre than you'd expect.
And that's where things get interesting. It all starts with this strange discovery.
This is what really hooked me.
A fish.
In Fermilab's lake.
Yep. Nicknamed Fessy. But it wasn't your average fish.
Oh, no. Fessy was something else. Unique. Almost alien-looking, the way they describe it.
The scientists were stumped. It's a major point of intrigue in the story.
Major is an understatement. It's this weird, inexplicable thing right from the get-go.
And you know what? This actually echoes real-life scientific mysteries. They find new species all the time, and it's not always clear what they're looking at, right?
You've got a point. It makes you think, what if we stumbled on something truly unique? How would we even know?
Exactly. It highlights how important careful observation is, right? Got to stay open to the unexpected.
Kind of like that coelacanth.
The what?
The coelacanth. It's this fish thought to be extinct for millions of years, but then, boom, found live and well in the Indian Ocean. Like Fessy, but real.
Oh, right. That's a good one.
So we've got a mysterious fish, this huge scientific complex. Then the story shifts to the Tevatron.
Ah, the Tevatron.
Fermilab's particle accelerator, right?
Even
Things get really weird, really fast.
the Tevatron is incredible, isn't it? This massive machine smashing particles together at insane speeds.
The manuscript describes these strange occurrences around it, beam tunnel shootings, people getting these unexplained wounds, this constant humming sound. You can practically feel the tension building.
It's interesting what they pick up on. The Tevatron is powerful, no doubt. A tool to push the boundaries of physics. But there's inherent risk, too, right?
Risk? Like what?
Particle accelerators have been involved in accidents. It's not unheard of. This manuscript might be tapping into those real-life concerns, the dangers of pushing scientific limits too far.
So it's a cautionary tale, maybe?
Perhaps. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even gotten to the portals, the cryptic messages, the connection to HARP.
Hold on, Herp. You mean that research facility in Alaska? The one everyone loves to theorize about?
The very same. And it gets even weirder, trust me.
Mysterious fish, weirdness around the Tevatron.
And a whole lot of questions about what's really going on at Fermilab.
Exactly. Then there's that whole HARP connection.
Which, I have to say, is a brilliant move by the author, even if it is a bit far-fetched.
You think so? Why is that?
It plays on that public fascination, HARP, this mysterious research facility in Alaska, messing with radio waves, the ionosphere.
People love a good conspiracy theory.
It's like catnip for the imagination. And in the story, they find this link between HARP and the Tevatron's crazy power surges.
They're saying HARP is powering the Tevatron. Secretly.
Well, that's the implication, isn't it? Like there's this whole hidden energy transfer thing happening. Wireless power, cryptic messages.
Hold up. Wireless power. Is that even like a real thing? Or just sci-fi stuff?
It's more real than you might think. Nikola Tesla, remember him?
Vaguely. Genius inventor guy, right?
Way ahead of his time. He was obsessed with wireless power, wanted to beam it across the globe. He even built that huge tower, Wardenclyffe Tower.
A tower for beaming power?
The dream was real. Sadly, funding fell through. Wardenclyffe got dismantled. But the idea never really went away.
So it's possible.
On a small scale, sure. We've got wireless phone chargers and all that. Researchers are trying to scale it up, but it's tricky.
Makes sense. But this manuscript, it takes that idea and runs with it, full speed ahead.
Which is where it gets really interesting. Because from wireless power, we jump to portals.
Portals? Wait, as in other dimensions?
You got it. The manuscript describes these rippling, otherworldly openings popping up inside the Tevatron's beam tunnel.
Hold on, are you saying there's a connection between wireless power and dimensional portals?
That's what the author wants us to believe, right? That by harnessing these high-frequency energies, HARP is somehow...
ripping holes in space-time, isn't that a bit of a stretch?
Maybe. But here's the thing. Multiple dimensions. That's not just sci-fi rambling.
It isn't.
Physicists have been toying with the idea for decades. String theory, for example, suggests there could be way more dimensions than we can perceive.
I always thought that was theoretical.
It is, mostly. But this manuscript, it takes that mind-boggling concept and uses it to tell a story. And a pretty gripping one, I have to admit.
Okay, but portals. What do they even look like in this story?
They're described as these shimmering, almost liquid-like openings, constantly shifting and changing. And through these portals, creatures start coming through.
Creatures? What, like aliens?
That's what our characters think at first. But the manuscript describes them as vaguely humanoid, but different. Smooth, almost featureless faces, elongated limbs. And their movements, they're described as being very fluid, like they're swimming through the air.
So, not your typical little green men, then?
Nope, not at all. These creatures, they seem just as surprised to be here as our characters are.
What happens next? This is intense.
Well, that's where the manuscript takes another turn, and things start to get really interesting.
Portals, strange creatures, cryptic messages. This deep dive has been a wild ride.
And we're not done yet.
Remember, our characters are stuck at Fermilab with these, interdimensional beings.
And things are escalating quickly, to say the least. They're trying to make sense of the creatures, figure out what HARP has to do with it all.
It's a lot to unpack. And just when you think you've got a handle on things, the manuscript throws in this whole other layer.
Another layer? What do you mean?
It takes a turn, see? Starts to feel more like, I don't know, a government conspiracy thriller. A conspiracy. About what?
The characters, they uncover evidence that someone, maybe a whole organization, has known about these other dimensions for a while.
Wait, hold on. Knew about them. Like, they knew about the portals, the creatures, all of it, and they just went ahead and built a giant particle accelerator right on top of a dimensional rift.
That's what it's suggesting. And the cryptic hybrid messages, they start to make a lot more sense in that context.
It's like someone's trying to guide them or warn them about something.
Exactly. It's wild, right?
Wild is an understatement. We've got secret government agencies, creatures from another dimension, and now maybe even a secret society calling the shots.
It's a lot to process. The manuscript does a great job of conveying that sense of confusion, the desperation to understand. The characters, they're forced to make choices, trust their gut, and really confront everything they thought they knew about reality.
Sounds like they're in way over their heads.
That's an understatement. And we're just experiencing it through this manuscript. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It forces us to ask these big, uncomfortable questions about the unknown, about what we don't know.
So what happens next? Do they figure out who's behind it all?
Well, that's where things get even more complicated. They find themselves caught between these different factions. Some want to contain the breach, others want to exploit it, and others, well, their motives are a little less clear.
Like an interdimensional game of chess with no clear winners? How do our characters even navigate that?
It's a tough spot, no doubt. The manuscript doesn't shy away from the difficult choices they have to make. Alliances are formed, trust is tested, and things rarely go according to plan.
And that's all before we even get to the creatures themselves. What happens with them?
This is where the manuscript throws another curveball, see? The real threat to humanity, it's not what they initially thought. And the solution to closing the dimensional breach, far more complicated and dangerous than they ever imagined.
I'd say this deep dive has definitely lived up to its name. We went from particle physics to other dimensions to government conspiracies. Talk about a wild ride.
It makes you realize, doesn't it? There's so much we don't know.
And sometimes the greatest discoveries are the ones we never see coming. The ones that challenge everything we thought we knew and force us to reconsider our place in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Stay curious. Keep asking questions. And never be afraid to delve into the unknown, no matter how strange or unsettling it might seem.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring,